So tiger beetles are such fast runners that they can capture virtually any non-flying insect. So we've been told that they are extremely fast. However, when running toward an insect, so let's say, this is our beetle, and when the beetle is running towards an insect, and here is our little insect, the beetles intermittently stop and then a moment later resume their attack. So when they are running towards the insect, for example, when the beetle reaches here, it stops. It takes a rest over here. Yeah, then again it starts running. Then when it reaches here, again it stops, right? So essentially they're saying that it intermittently keeps stopping every, you know, every now and then. We don't know whether it is regular. We don't know whether it is after certain interval, after, or whether the interval is increasing or decreasing or whatever. We don't know, but we know that it keeps, stopping every now and then. Okay. And then it resumes its attack. Of course, it's, running towards the insect. Perhaps they cannot maintain their pace and must pause for a moment's rest. So now, look here, this one, the tiger beetles are such fast. This is a premise, right? This the first sentence, that is a premise. It's data given to us, or context, whatever, doesn't matter. Then the second one, however, when running toward insect, again, this is a fact that they are giving to us. So again, this is a premise. Our second sentence is also a premise. But here, perhaps they cannot maintain their pace and must pause for a moment's rest. This is not a premise. The author is saying perhaps they cannot maintain, right? So he's guessing, isn't it? He doesn't really know. He's not given it as a fact. So this is what? This is the author's claim. I can call this his hypothesis. Make sense? Yeah? All right. Hmm. But, and so he's, what is a hypothesis is essentially there is some observation, and then he is giving an assumption that, okay, the observation could be because of this, right? So it's again, something he's guessing. But an alternative hypothesis is that while running, tiger beetles are unable to process the resulting rapidly changing visual information and so quickly go blind and stop. So they have, basically they're saying that, what they do, what the beetles do, they run and then they stop and then they run and then they stop and then they run. So they keep doing this. Now the idea is, the question is, why do they keep doing this? Why do they keep stopping every now and then? When they are chasing an insect, why are they stopping every now and then, right? So then he says that there are two hypotheses. That is, two things could possibly explain this. Hypothesis one and hypothesis two. One, he's saying that they need rest. That, perhaps they get tired because they're running really fast, right? He says they are such fast runners. So then they need rest every now and then. Second, he says, is that perhaps they go blind because they're running so fast. So the visual data around them, information is changing so quickly that they're unable to process that. And then, they lose it. They cannot see then what is ahead of them. So then they stop. And then they have to take a look again. And then they again start running. And then again, they go blind, right? So he's saying that there are these two hypotheses. He's saying in his argument, essentially he's given us two possible different hypotheses, yeah, for an observed phenomenon. And what is that phenomenon? That they keep stopping every now and then, intermittently, right, while chasing. Okay, look at the question set. Which of the following, if discovered in experiments using artificially moved prey insects? So, they're saying that in case we conduct an experiment and in which the tiger beetles are there, and then we move an insect artificially, then which one of the following would support one of the two hypotheses and undermine the other? So is this a strengthened question or is it a weakened question? It is both. You need to, what is it that you need to do? You need to find that one particular option which strengthens one of the hypotheses. Which one, we don't know, but it strengthens, because it says would support one of the two hypotheses and undermine the other. So it has to strengthen one and weaken the other. Yeah, whichever, it could strengthen either one, doesn't matter, but it has to strengthen one and weaken the other. So we need more data which is going to strengthen one of these hypotheses and weaken the other. Okay. So once we look at the options, I think it will become clearer. Now, when a prey insect is moving directly toward a beetle that has been chasing it, when a prey insect is moved directly towards a beetle, now I'm saying that if we move this insect directly towards the beetle immediately turns and runs away without its usual intermittent stopping. So now they're saying that the beetle turns and runs away without stopping. Now, without stopping, And now, does it, statement support or undermine either one of our hypotheses? If anything, it just undermines both, right? If it is turning back and running away, then why doesn't it need its rest? It needs its rest at that time also, but it's not stopping. And if it goes blind when it is running, then again, when it is turning back, the beetle is turning back and running at that time, why isn't the beetle stopping? Isn't it? It should go blind at that time also. But so essentially, it kind of undermines both of them. So this is not an answer. Right? Okay, look at B. In pursuing a moving insect, the beetles usually respond immediately to changes in the insect's direction. What does this tell me? It tells me that the moment the insect changes direction, and let's say the insect starts flying in this direction, the beetle, if the beetle is, let's say, running over here, and then it sees that the insect has changed the direction, then beetle also changes its direction instantly, right? So then that means that the beetle is able to see. The beetle has not gone blind while the beetle is running, right? So then it undermines my second hypothesis. It undermines the second one, okay, and pauses equally frequently whether the chase is up or down an incline. Now, this is undermining my first hypothesis also, the rest also. Why? Because if the beetle is, taking the stops, the pauses at the same intervals, whether it is going up or down, that means that it is not getting tired. Why? Because it would have taken more frequent pauses while going up in case it was getting tired. Because while going up, it would get tired earlier, right? Because it's a harder climb, right? And going really fast and going up, it should have taken more pauses. It should have taken longer pauses in while going up than while going down, in case the rest thing was an issue. Does that make sense? Right? So then it undermines both the hypotheses. So this is also not correct. It has to support one of them and undermine the other. Okay, the Beatles maintain a fixed time interval between pauses. All right, so now it is saying that the time interval between pauses is always the same. Although when an insect that had been stationary begins to flee, the beetle increases its speed after its next pause. So it's saying when the insect that had been stationary, it starts to fly, then the beetle increases its speed after its next pause. That means that, so, for example, when the beetle is here and the insect was stationary over here, so of course the beetle is moving in this direction. But if the insect starts flying, then the beetle goes to its next pause, and there after that it starts moving faster. Yeah, which means that it had probably gone blind. Makes sense, right? So it does support the second hypothesis, the blind one, right? And then but the beetle maintains a fixed time interval. It increases its speed after its next pause, but it maintains a fixed time interval between pauses. So no matter what the speed of the beetle, even when the beetle is running faster, it is still maintaining that fixed time interval between pauses. What does that mean? It means that it undermines the rest thing, right? Because if the beetle were running faster, it would need rest for longer times, or it will need, more frequent rests, right? And if the point was that, oh, I'm getting tired, that is why I need to take a break and I need to stop, if that was the point, then when you're running faster, you would get tired faster as well, right? So that is why it does undermine our hypothesis one, the rest one. So, well, great. So it does undermine one and it does strengthen the other. Great. All right, let's look at option D. If when a beetle pauses, it has not gained on the insect it is pursuing, the beetle generally ends its pursuit. So if when a beetle pauses, when it stops, then if it has not gained, it is basically gauging at that time, it is judging at that time. And if it has not gained, then the beetle ends its pursuit. So essentially, we know that this is strengthening the blind hypothesis, because why? When the beetle stops, then it gauges, because then it is able to see the insect properly. That is why, right? And then it stops its pursuit. The beetle doesn't stop running immediately if in between. After the pause, it stops running if it feels that it is not gaining over the insect, right? So it does strengthen our second hypothesis, the blind one, but it does not strengthen our or weaken our the first hypothesis, the rest one, right? There is no impact on this one. It doesn't really say anything about that, isn't it? So then, of course, this would also not be our answer. Okay. Look at option E. When an obstacle is suddenly introduced just in front of running beetles, the beetles sometimes stop immediately, but they never respond by running around the barrier. Okay, so it's saying that sometimes if the beetle is running, let's say it is over here right now, and if you put a barrier in front of the beetle, so the beetles, they'll stop immediately. Essentially, then they are able to see the barrier. So then it does undermine my hypothesis two, which is the blind one, right? Because well, the beetle was able to see it, so then they are able to see the barrier, but they never respond by running around the barrier. This actually has nothing to do with our argument, right? Running around the barrier, whether the beetle has the capability of doing that or not, we don't know. It doesn't matter. It's not in any way related to the number of pauses that it takes, the length of pauses, the time interval between pauses, etc. Right? So it doesn't talk about our hypothesis one at all. So of course, this can also not be the answer. This is also not correct. Look at F. In pursuing a swerving insect, so if there is an insect which is swerving, yeah, right? So it is going like this, and then it is going like this, then it is going like this, right? This insect. A beetle alters its course while running, and so it's saying that while pursuing this particular insect, and if the insect is swerving, the beetle will also alter its course. It will go like this, then it will go like this, and it will move along with the insect, and its pauses become more frequent as the chase progresses. So he's saying the beetle alters its course, which means that it has not gone blind. Does it make sense, right? Why? Because the beetle is able to see. So it is undermining the blind hypothesis because it is turning as the insect is turning. We are given, right? But its pauses become more frequent as the chase progresses. That means it's getting tired because as the chase progresses, it's getting tired more frequently. So then it is possible that the beetle is looking for rest, and that is the reason why it is stopping every now and then. So it does support my hypothesis one, the rest hypothesis, right? My first hypothesis said that the beetle wants to rest, and it is supporting that because the pauses become more frequent as the chase progresses. But since it continues to, change its course along with the swerving insect, that means that the beetle is not blind. So then it undermines my hypothesis too. So then this also supports one hypothesis and undermines the other. So this is also correct, right? So, why do we have two correct options over here? So there are these two official questions where all of this is exactly the same. All of this is exactly the same. Yeah, your question is the same. Your question stem is the same. Just that the five options are different in the two. Yeah. So essentially, it is like having one question with 10 options, out of which two statements are correct. So, this was the correct answer in this question, and in other question, this was the correct answer. So anyway, I added that also over here so that we can evaluate that as well, and it will make sense. In this, it undermines the first one, it supports the second one. This one undermines the second one and supports the first one. So they're kind of a little different. So that is why. Yeah, but essentially these are two, there are like this option, F option belongs to another question, which is exactly the same. The F option is the correct answer in that. Only the options are different. Yeah. Of course, it's an official question and it's all available on GMAT team. So, right?